the most perfect classic Thanksgiving stuffing, and I'm going to show you how to make it without any packaged breadcrumbs. You are going to love this recipe. This is my favorite stuffing of all times. We have not made stuffing together in about 4 years. I think the last stuffing that we made was when I did the family style, which was the whole theme for the 2019 Thanksgiving series. This is that, but scaled back slightly. So if you're not hosting 20 people, this is perfect. It is my favorite stuffing. It is using a really good quality, delicious bread. I used sourdough that I have in the oven right now, drying up at 325, which we'll talk about in just a minute. I fill my stuffing with lots of sausage, celery. Today I am using leeks, which I've done the last couple years, and it is just insanely good. If you don't want to use leeks, you can just use regular onions and it will work just fine. Lots of fresh herbs, chicken stock and butter and olive oil, and it's just the most delicious thing you will ever have. There is no better stuffing in my opinion. You can use one of those bagged like little bread cubes, or I call them bread crumbs, because by the time you are all set and done, they like fall apart. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like they don't hold any texture. And that's just not the vibe for me, because I'm a texture person and I like things to be outstanding. Now, the sausage I'm using is 1 pound of Italian sausage. Half of it, well, more than half, is sweet and some spicy. You can do all spicy, all sweet, doesn't matter. This combination is delicious. It gives you a little bit of heat, but not too much. I took it out of the casing, but if you can get like bulk sausage, just go ahead and use that. I have a really nice large skillet with just a tiny little bit of olive oil. We will be adding more fat, don't you worry, but this is not the time just yet. I'm gonna add my sausage. It's not gonna sizzle just yet, but it'll get there. And then you're gonna just start breaking this up. It's not gonna do you much good until the sausage really starts cooking. Before breaking it up gets easier and easier. The temperature is increasing, I can hear it. I'm not terribly concerned that it's not sizzling right now. Actually, can you hear? It's hot, it's just not excited yet, but it will be. Okay, while that happens, let's talk leeks. Leeks are delicious, but I think one of the things that really puts people off about leeks is how messy they are. You do have to clean them properly. So what I do when I'm getting ready to use them, you can actually do the step ahead of time. I take the whole leek to the sink and I start peeling the first few layers, because so much dirt and sand is like encrusted on the outside of the leek. I don't want it to go anywhere near my cutting board. So once I get to where I want, like I discard the first few layers, this is still not ready yet. It still needs lots of cleaning. But what I do is at this point, I just use a different board. I don't want to use the same cutting board that I'm cutting the rest of my veggies on, because I don't want it to get all sandy. I'm gonna go ahead, look at this. That is what's inside each layer of the leeks. I'm doing 2 leeks. I'm gonna discard that leek. Anyway, I'm doing 2 leeks because I find these to be quite on the small side, and I want to see all the dirt. Nobody wants all that. And I don't want a little bit. I want a good amount of leeks. That's why I'm using 2. And I kind of go all the way to the light part. But then, let me show you. These very few I'll discard because they're kind of tough. The greens are kind of tough. But the lighter greens I'll keep. And I'm just going to chop pretty much all the way up until I get to about right there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to add all of this sliced leek in a large bowl. Then I'll take everything to the sink and give everything a really good wash. Sausage is, oh, flying all over the kitchen apparently. Sausage is done. I'm not going to let that piece go to waste. I'm actually going to take it out of the pan. I am not draining any juices, because here's the thing, okay? What makes stuffing so delicious? It is that it's basically a bunch of bread cooked in a fatty broth. In a fatty, beautiful, delicious, outstanding broth, and it is spectacular, okay? You're gonna need a nap for a few days after you eat it, but it's so worth it. You add butter, a little olive oil. The olive oil gives it flavor, but it also stops the butter from burning. The leeks are clean and you would not believe the amount of dirt that came off of them. And I also went ahead and diced up some celery. I went ahead and did 3 whole stalks of celery. Don't be afraid. Celery is so underrated in my opinion. It gives you such beautiful flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and add all of that in there. I'm going to give it a nice season of some salt and pepper. Get that off my hands. And you're gonna let these cook on medium heat for a good 15 minutes or so. I really want them to develop lots of beautiful flavor, lots of color. It just does magical, wonderful things when you give them time to really blossom and, again, do really beautiful things. Let's talk bread for a second because I do feel like your stuffing is only as good as your bread. This is, can I be more ridiculous today dropping stuff? This is sourdough bread. I've mentioned to you before that I don't like cutting my bread into tiny little pieces because tiny little pieces mean lots of mush, not enough texture, and that's just not the vibe. I like texture. So I go ahead and just tear my bread into these irregular pieces that are gonna give you the best texture. What you should do is you should rip apart your bread the night before, put it on a baking sheet, and just let it dry out overnight. However, if you forget, like I did, or do most of the time, you can just tear it all up, put it on a baking sheet, and throw it in a 325 oven. The pepper, I can smell it, like went right up my nose. 325 oven, like 20 minutes or so, and it will dry it out and do beautiful things. Set this aside. The only thing I'm gonna work on right now is having these cook. So I'll babysit that. I'm gonna go ahead and chop up lots of parsley, rosemary, and thyme so that those are ready. I've got some beer or wine, totally optional. If you don't wanna add it, don't. I've got my chicken stock, I've got my eggs. I got everything moving and grooving. Do these look gorgeous or do they look gorgeous? I wanted to tell you that I added the thyme and rosemary to the leeks a few minutes ago because they're heartier herbs, so they do need a few minutes of cooking time just to break them down a bit. Now I'm gonna go back in with my cooked sausage and any of the drippings because it is Thanksgiving. Look how gorgeous, look how beautiful. It already smells unbelievably delicious. I cannot even begin to tell you. I could eat this by itself. But soak it all with some bread, and let me just tell you, perfection. Add a little bit of beer or wine. Typically I would add wine, but a light lager works well. You don't have to add any at all if you don't want to. You know, it does give you ample, delicious flavor, so I'm not gonna turn that down. Okay, I have the bread in a nice large bowl. Let's talk baking dish, okay? I've said, how many times have I told you I'm a texture person? The smaller your roasting pan or your baking dish, the more mushy your stuffing. So I find that using a pan a little bit bigger than you think works perfectly. This is sort of the equivalent to a 9x13, and for this amount of stuffing, it's gonna be absolutely perfect. I'm just waiting for this to cook for like a minute. I don't wanna reduce all of it because I want some of those juices, that beer, wine juice to kind of get into the flavoring of the bread. Lots of parsley is so important. All those herbs just bring everything to life. And honestly, there's just no comparing this to anything pre-seasoned because it's just spectacular. Turn that off. I told you the oven is preheated to 375. I'm gonna take all of this carefully, well, as careful as I can manage, and I'm gonna pour it all over the bread. Does that not look gorgeous already? My pan's been buttered, by the way. I'm gonna take every last bit of this goodness, pouring that in there. I'm gonna grab a big spoon for this. Now to this, you're gonna add chicken stock and you're gonna add some eggs. A lot of people go without eggs, but for me, the egg is the binder. For me, the egg is what gives you that interior sort of souffle-like texture. And it is indeed very important. These are our fresh eggs. Look at the color of that shell. Beautiful. Whisk. I'm not adding any additional salt because it's all already really well salted. add your stock, and then just a little at a time, come in here and give it a good whisk. And the reason why I do a little stock at a time is just to make it easier on myself. Add a little bit more. Beautiful. See when I say it's like the perfect size? It's not too deep, and I don't like to compact it all in there. I like to basically just let it fall where it wants to fall, because the more you compact it, the less the texture. Perfect. Then you just take a little bit more butter, and I just do that over the top, maybe like a couple tablespoons total in little pieces. I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to let it cook covered for about 25 minutes and then uncovered for another 20, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Stuffing is done. It baked covered for 25 minutes, uncovered for 25. And listen, I know stuffing is not the most beautiful thing to photograph. It is not certainly something that you put on the table and you think, oh, that is so beautiful. But trust me, it is one of the most delicious, and to a foodie like me, all I can see are crusty bits around the edges and that crispy sausage on top. I can just see all the goodness, and that to me is like the perfect stuffing. And let me explain to you why. You see, it's got crispiness. Remember I was telling you texture and why I love to tear my bread into big chunks, because you get crispy bits. But then at the center, you get that soaked, sort of fluffy, almost souffle-like texture. It's just sublime. That, to me, there is no better stuffing. There is no better stuffing. It just has everything going for it. It's got texture, it has flavor. It has like bits of those fresh herbs that just take this over the edge. All I need is some gravy, mashed potato, some turkey, sweet potato casserole, and we're in business. You hear the crunch? It's the best. I'm sorry, but it is. No better stuffing. Go to laurainthekitchen.com for the written recipe. I hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.